Sale resolution for parcel ending in 003, also known as 4534 Polk Street, for April 13th at 4:35 p.m. Item 7, secondary roads, approval of a utility permit for installation of underground electric in county rights of way. And 8, county auditor, consideration and approval of liquor license for the White Horse Patrol. I will move.
Second.
Motion by DeWitt, second by Monson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Item 9 is Board of Supervisors, presentation of resolution thanking and commending Brian Marin for his years of service to Woodbury County. Brian, would you come up to the... A resolution thanking and commending Brian Marin for his service to Woodbury County. Whereas Brian has capably served Woodbury County as an employee for the Woodbury County Building Services Department for 21 years, from February 16th, 2000 to March 8th, 2021. Whereas the service given by Brian as a Woodbury County employee has been characterized by his dedication to the best interests of the citizens of Woodbury County, and now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Woodbury County that the undersigned members of this board thanks and commends Brian for his years of service to Woodbury County, and be it further resolved that it is the wish of all those signing below that the future hold only the best for this very deserving person, Brian Marin. On this day of March 2nd, 2021. Any departing words of wisdom that you'd like to?
Nothing you'd want to listen to.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
I just had a couple things I wanted to say.
Ooh.
Not only was Brian an employee of Woodbury County for many years, he also holds a greater title, and that is a Vietnam War veteran. Yesterday was observed as National Vietnam War Veterans Day, and Brian is part of a group of men and women who hold a special place in my heart, as my dad was also a Vietnam vet. Over the years, I have gotten to know Brian, although I don't think he spoke one word to me for the first 5 years I worked here. I used to just think he was the grumpy maintenance man. But I have nothing but honor and respect for him now. Thank you for being my friend, and thank you for your service to this country. You have not been forgotten. Happy retirement.
I got to say, in all the different retirements, I don't think I've seen so many people show up in respect for their coworker retiring. So I think that says a lot about you there, Brian. And, you know, in a department like Building Services, from our end, you know, we know you're doing your job right when we can't tell it's being done at all. So, you know, we appreciate you for what you've done and working here, and thank you.
How many are going to show up for your retirement party, Keith?
I bet that can negative numbers show up.
A thermos of coffee and a package of Twinkies
Yeah, I was gonna say,
will probably cover it.
Yeah, if you have the party the day after celebrating that I'm gone, maybe that'll bring the turnout.
I don't know, Twinkies make a fine gift.
Item 10, secondary roads. Receive bids for annual corrugated metal pipe purchase for 2021, project CP 2021.
You notice she won't even give me the letter opener until it's time. I can't be trusted with a dangerous item here, apparently.
I say that doesn't get past security anymore, so she doesn't want to lose it.
No, I guess not.
No, it doesn't. Well, one of the supervisors on the dais used to give me a hard time about my pocket knife, so. The first culvert bid is from Metal Culverts. They're out of Jefferson City, Missouri.
Are we a little nervous about what these are gonna come in at?
No, I'm not nervous. Right?
He just planned on spending more.
I'm hoping we don't see some of the big cost increases we've seen in some other, oh my goodness, yeah. Well,
Whoops.
maybe I should have been. Total bid price, $125,744.40. 125,744.40. Just to give the board an idea, 24 inches up by $8 a lineal foot, 30 inches up by $9 a lineal foot. 36 is up roughly $8 a lineal foot as well, so.
So not much difference from the other percentages we've seen, and quite frankly, I just priced some wood out a week apart, and the price of wood jumped 10% in the last week alone. So,
Cost increase related to gold.
well, it's steel
Yeah.
culvert, so
It's related to gold.
It would be very much appreciated if we had some assistance with that as a result of it. True North Steel is the second bid. They are out of St. Paul, Minnesota. Total bid price, $149,399.99. $149,399.99.
It has Fargo, North Dakota on it here.
Pardon me?
It says Fargo.
Okay, the main office in Minneapolis must have been the one to send the bid, though.
Yeah.
We send our request for bid to Fargo. That's the office that calls on us. I recommend you have a motion to receive the bids for 2021 culverts.
I'll move to receive.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung to receive the bids. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0.
I recommend award of the quote to Metal Culverts,
I'll move that.
City, Missouri.
Second?
Motion by Raddick, second by Monson. Any other questions on the bids for Mark?
How much higher is this than last year?
About 30%.
Yeah, last year's prices would have put us in, I think when Fay and I took a look at the estimates, somewhere around $93,000. So we're talking 30,000 above where we were anticipating almost.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Item 10C, approval of final pay voucher for project 137, the HMA resurfacings of County Route K49.
And I just wanted to interrupt on the last thing we were talking about too. Drain culverts, quite frankly, are considered maybe water or sewer type projects, wouldn't they, as a storm sewer?
They would be considered storm sewer. Our ditch and roadside culverts function in the same manner as a curb and gutter and storm sewer system in a city.
So potentially, when you read about the COVID funding, it, specifically says water sewer projects are something that could be considered. So I think a storm sewer would also qualify under that.
Yeah, some of these are used in crossroad culvert applications. We borrowed we had a wood culvert, timber culvert, actual timber box culvert fail on us. I found it yesterday. We replaced it today with a 48-inch corrugated metal pipe. We called, we didn't have any 48 in stock. We called Plymouth County and asked if they had some. They did. So they've loaned it to us. We have to replace it. We'll be replacing it at a much higher price, but we have a safe structure back under that road now.
Yeah.
We had a hole that was 30 inches by 18 inches by 9 inches deep when I got out there, and I just happened to be driving by and found it. And we were fortunate that our neighbors to the north were willing to help us out with that. Most of these culverts serve like bridges, I guess, getting back to your question, Keith.
Sure.
We charge the property owner for new culverts. That's where many of these that are in this annual purchase for stock go. new driveways, that might be for housing or for additional field entrances. The property owners pay for those. Once they're in, we take care of them from that point forward as long as that driveway is needed. So we use a lot of them for replacement of existing culverts as well. And yeah, they do function much akin to storm sewer in those cases.
So that's where I think maybe if we're in a situation where we're trying to figure out how we can use this money and what it qualifies for, I think.
I can definitely
Possibly.
show you the cost increase between this year and last year when we take and compile these numbers. And boy, if it was something that was eligible for some funding, that would be a great help to our department.
Be worth a look.
Sorry, back to
Next is
C.
approval of final pay voucher.
Yes.
Parent 137. This
Yes.
is the project where we combined 1 mile of resurfacing with about 23 miles of resurfacing on K-49 that was being done up in Plymouth County. We were able to come in under their umbrella and get that work done. Approximate cost, I think, was $286,000. The final payment voucher is here and available, and I request the board direct the chair to sign.
I'll move that.
Motion by Radig, second by DeWitt. Any other questions for Merck? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. There you go, Mark. Passes 5-0. Item 11. We good, Mark?
Yeah, we're good. I was just waiting to see if I was item 11. Nope.
No. Item 11, Board Administration. 11A, Approval of Maximum Property Tax Dollars Resolution.
Okay, this is something we should have done when we had our public hearing on March 9th, where we set our maximum levies. In this case here, we had to have this resolution before we could actually set our public hearing for our budget to be adopted. So we're requesting to have this approved today, retroactive back then, and then we'll have our public hearing, which we will then postpone to April 20th. We did get an extension to April 20th by Department Management, so we'll get published tomorrow, or sent out to publish, meet our deadline, so we'll have our public hearing April 20th. But before we set that date, we have to pass this resolution for approval of the maximum property tax levy dollars. We've approved, we had no objections to the hearing, everybody's fine, it's just a little slow piece of paper is required. So, I guess we need a motion to adopt this resolution, and then the chair and Mr. Gill sign it.
I will move approval.
I'll second.
Motion by DeWitt, second by Young. Any other questions for Dennis? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. So we still need this public
So you're
hearing?
at your set time now, and we're suggesting it be postponed and set the hearing date for April 20th at 4:45, 4:50.
I will move that.
Second, Munson.
Motion by DeWitt, second by Monson. Any other questions on this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Item C, public hearing on proposed FY 2022 budget.
Okay, C and D, we postpone, so we
Okay.
can C and D.
All right. We're good on item 11, Dennis?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Back to Mark.
We will recess the regular Board of Supervisors meeting and convene the Wolf Creek Drainage District Trustee meeting. Item 12A, receive and consider bids for embankment repair and debris cleanup in the Wolf Creek Drainage District.
Wolf Creek Drainage District received federal financial assistance for bank repair and debris cleanup. It was a result of the March 2019 flood. Permitting took quite a while on this one. There were a lot of questions by the regulatory agencies. We got those issues taken care of, got plans finished, and we have 3 bids for the project. The first is from Holly Brown Construction. One of the reasons we didn't have to have a public hearing on this is the total cost of the project is, for the district, is estimated to be less than $50,000. The district will have to pay 15% of whatever the project cost is. Bid guarantee is included by cashier's check. Holly Brown is out of Ponca, Nebraska. Total bid price for the project is $232,626. 232,626. The next bid is from L.A. Carlson of Hinton, Iowa. Bid guarantee is included by bond. Total bid price, $226,079.25. 226,079.25. Final bid is from Johnston Excavation of Sloan, Iowa. Proposal guarantee is included by check. Total bid price, $168,148. 168,148. Recommend the board receive, oh, we don't have a motion to receive on this one? Oh, we do.
Yeah, it says receive and consider, so I'll move to receive them.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt to receive the bids. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0.
Does it look clean?
Yes.
All right, I'll move to award to Johnston Excavation of Sloan, Iowa.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Monson to award the low bid to Johnston of Sloan, Iowa. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
We are adjourning the Wolf Creek Drainage District and reconvening the Board of Supervisors meeting. Any reports on committee meetings?
Holiday weekend coming up. No groups hanging out the week before.
Okay. Anybody else?
I had 4 different Simco meetings, but the only one that's really got anything significant that happened, I would say, was Housing Trust Fund. We just kind of updated things to, current federal situations so that their award amounts are similar to what other communities are giving for individuals now, so.
That it?
That's it?
I had a Rolling Hills Mental Health Governance Board meeting last week, Wednesday, by Zoom or phone. Regarding, one of the things, of course, was regarding the crisis center up there on Division Street that I think I mentioned in the past that Sioux Rivers is interested in selling the property, and they wanted $495 or $499 initially, and Rolling Hills offered them what was kind of a lowball bid. Long story short, they came back with a counteroffer of $395 that was voted on to let it sit. We did not act on it at the last governance board meeting, so the ball is kind of in their court. We're still trying to figure out various issues that has not been appraised. They don't seem to have any other interest in the property, but I'll refrain from that. But anyway, they're came back with a counter offer, like I said, at $395. We voted to take no action, and so more to follow in April. That's all that comes to mind for me. Round 2 of citizen concerns. Nobody's on the phone? Board concerns.
I don't have a concern, but I just want to mention this. I did say that I would not take the money that would be in excess of what Jeremy would have gotten. And I had the auditor's office, Michelle, and HR look at what that amount was, and it was about $2,200 and some dollars, rounded off. I'm going to donate that along with enough to make it $2,500 to the Community Action Agency of Siouxland to assist a family that really needs some help. And my wife got so excited about the project, she put in another $500. So there will be more from Community Action Agency on what that is.
Anybody else?
So I did want to kind of hold a candid discussion with the board. It was brought up, and had a discussion with Joshua about it on the preference process on filling the treasurer position. When the city of Sioux City would fill a board or commission position, and there were multiple applicants for a single position, each individual council member would give their preference to the clerk, and the clerk would then put that individual on the agenda, and then they would vote on that person in open session. And most of those votes were unanimous, but sometimes they were 3-2, or sometimes they actually failed in open session, and somebody else would be nominated later on. When I left city council and they filled my position, they had 17 applicants and did more of a point system from what Dan remembered, where you gave your top 3 preferences, and whoever you said was your first preference got 3 points, your second preference got 2 points, and your third preference got 1. And then the top vote getter, or top point getter, was the person that was on the agenda and who was voted for. There is nothing in state code about whether or not you can do this. Some argue it's a way of voting without voting in open session, but the actual vote is done in open session. There has not been any criticism of the city of Sioux City for how they have done it. I'd be curious to see if the Journal did a poll on should the city continue to fill board positions that way, and see what kind of response you get. But the argument was always that you couldn't, pick an open session without making somebody's feelings hurt, or, if you had 5 or 10, like in the case of when I left, like 17 applicants for one position, and you didn't pick the guy you knew in open session, but you picked some other guy you knew, the idea of hurting somebody's feelings. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out there. If you guys have any other idea on how to do it better, and of course, we don't even, how many do we have in, 1 or 2?
I haven't seen any.
Oh, we had 1 emailed, so I know, and it was emailed to Heather, so I think as far right now, we only have 1 person that's filled out the application, and there's only, 2 more days left to get them in, so.
And I was told there was 1 more that asked for an application.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a phone call too, but I don't know if that's the same person that always.
So, anyway, and I'm sure, Pat's given his opinion on it, and I understand his position, but at the same time, there's countless cities all over Iowa that do a preference process, and Josh can give his opinion on it too. It's similar to, just go ahead, so it's on the record here.
Right. I think that the safest process, or if I was going to advise how to design the process, the discussion in open session at a board meeting would be the least susceptible to some sort of a claim of an open meetings violation. I can see the arguments both ways, and I'm aware of the other entities that have done it the way that Keith has set out. But again, I think the safest course of action is to do it in the board meeting, have the discussion there. The concern is that there was a case a couple years ago about a walking quorum and using a county employee from a different county. But there's some precedent there as far as using a county employee as kind of an intermediary for making a decision or gathering board members' viewpoints. And so I think that doing an open session would steer clear of all of that. Again, it's not necessarily a slam dunk either way, but the safest course is doing it in open session.
Joshua, by it, are you talking about both the open interview process and the ultimate selection the following week, or are you just talking about one of those?
I'm talking about the board deciding who to appoint. So the interviews themselves, they could potentially have been done in closed session. The code section for that closed section is controlled by an applicant, so it would have to be requested by the applicant. And each applicant individually would have to request that. There's not a requirement that they be done. I mean, there is a little bit, there's more latitude on this because it is an appointment, and I mean, the board isn't even required to do the interviews, and that's something that you're doing and putting that out there. So there is some leeway, but.
So how do you feel about the way Keith's talking about it? We personally go home and score each, our top three, and then the top one ends up on the agenda? Is that how you?
So we personally score each 1, 2, 3. We give them to Karen or Heather, and they can just add up whoever got the most points and put that person on the agenda. And then if we decide that's not the person we personally want, we can vote no to that person on the agenda. Or if we decide, well, I didn't vote for that person, but they had the most points, so I'll vote for that person. Or if we decide that's my person and I'll vote for that person. The vote is done in open session.
Yeah.
But your preference is given to, Karen does the agenda, so I think probably Karen would receive the preference and put it on the agenda.
Yeah, it makes me nervous to interview somebody in a public meeting. That's kind of scary.
Sure.
I certainly wouldn't want to do it, because you want to ask some questions.
Sure. Well, and I mean, like Matthew, he's done it at the city when he was effective fiscal and public policy committee, and I mean, I think you even went to some of other people's interviews too when they applied to be on the board.
Yeah.
Too. So the process is, maybe a little bit intimidating, a little bit scary, but so is serving in a public office.
Right.
I mean, it might look like it's all fun, but I think that's because we're all so good at it,
Right.
That wasn't.
So what do we think? Is this?
I think what, Keith, what you're just trying to avoid is 5 people on a list and fails 0 to 5 or 1 to 4, and then you get to the,
Right.
That's just my understanding. I mean, everyone will at one point be on the agenda and discussed. So, however much any of you or I want to say about a particular person, we can certainly do that in open session.
I did want to point out, when the city did it to fill my position, I don't know of anybody that ever had any criticism of that preference system given. So nothing was challenged. And I still think what we're doing is probably one of the most transparent ways of doing it, by having public application and interview process. So that's just my personal beliefs, but
Are you thinking that we would select our preferences before or after having somebody appear publicly?
well, after, definitely. Yeah, so after next Tuesday's meeting.
Not necessarily for the public interview. Just perhaps have somebody come in, give them 3 minutes to introduce themselves.
Well, the way it works is next Tuesday, we're gonna, have the interviews. And, if we have 15 or 20, of course, we're gonna give them all 3 to 5 minutes to talk, But I think we give them 2 minutes to say what they feel they can accomplish, their goals and objectives of being the treasurer. And I don't know if we all just take 1 or 2 questions ourselves to ask of them. Obviously, we won't want to just all take 10 questions or something, because we'd be here till 7 or 8 p.m., and I know that's exactly what Dennis and Karen want to do, so. But,
Well, that would be the case if we had 17 applicants, but right now we just have 1, so.
sure,
We'll see how it goes, but as long as it takes, I mean, it's an important position.
right.
So where are we? What are we going to do? We're going to have applications. What's the next step?
Well, if we only get 2, I think we just say who we prefer, and she can tally them up. And the challenge is if one of us abstains and it ends up 2-2, then where do we go? So that's a challenge. Yeah.
It's not if, it is,
Right,
I mean, assuming, but.
assuming, yeah,
regardless,
yeah, so.
Joshua, is this something that should be on the agenda, this broad discussion on this topic, or is this okay to discuss?
Well, we're not necessarily deciding unless we decide to not do what was already said.
Yeah, I think we're okay under general board comments. It's whatever procedure is going to need to be known by next week as far as, if the interviews are going to be on the agenda. That's already been, that process was approved last week. The notice has gone out. The notice said that they're going to be open session interviews, and the appointment's going to happen on April 13th. So the appointment needs to happen that date. And I guess what needs to be decided is if there's going to be discussion at the meeting on the 6th of, who's the appointment going to be, or if there's going to be some other process to determine who ultimately will be appointed on the 13th.
I would like us to be a little flexible in that starting date. Most people give 2-week notice, and we're right backed up against it.
Oh, sure.
That's pretty tough. I think we ought to be able to negotiate that with a person.
Oh, to swear them in right then and there?
Yeah, and make them go to work the next day.
Well,
That's all right. Call your boss tomorrow.
they can be sworn in and start work a week later, I guess, too. So, I mean, once you're the head of the office, you kind of determine your own schedule, don't you?
I'm still not clear.
If we're clear as mud, then
Okay.
we'll stay the course, I guess, but.
If we just want to be the safest and most transparent, we can put everyone on the agenda. If it works out that there's 3 people and they all fail, then I guess we have to discuss and
Well, you'd have a
revote.
motion to reconsider one.
Exactly.
Yep.
If you're on the losing side of one.
If it's between hurt feelings and, getting any flack for not being as transparent as we already are, then
Yep.
being in politics is about getting hurt feelings, so.
Yeah, I don't know too many people that make friends in this position.
Right.
So, just to be clear on that, when you say put them all on the agenda, are you talking about the 6th or the 13th?
The last one, when we would decide,
So would you have them all show up at the meeting that day? Because one of them would have to be sworn in.
Well, would they have to swear in at that? We'd have to have a judge here, wouldn't we?
Yep.
well, then we better be deciding that, so.
That's where I think the preference process would make more sense, and then you'd know the Thursday before who it is.
I mean, I agree with you, I just, if there is a concern about the process, then,
I think, I mean, and I respect Joshua's legal opinion 100%, and I do think that, you know, he's right that that is the safest option for being as transparent as humanly possible, right? But I also know what other cities in Iowa do and other, you know, situations, and I mean, I think for their council seat to have done it that way, I think, you know, most people praised the city for the process they did and the, you know, transparency of it. I think it just makes sense to do it the same way. So that's why I proposed it the way I did. And, you know, other than, you know, Pat's voicing, you know, the concern about it before, you know, I haven't heard anybody in the public that was opposed to it at all. So that's just where I stand on it. But I guess if anyone has a different opinion on how it should be done, then let's throw it on the agenda next week and, you know, otherwise I think we just keep doing it the way we've got it on the agenda or what we've said we would do. That's my personal belief. So that's why I wanted to bring it up, have that discussion in open session. Though it's not on the agenda, but it was a concern.
yeah, so I'm not gonna propose anything different. I mean, if, you know, like I said, if it works for the city and 17 applicants, then I don't see why there'd be a concern here, but I'm open to either one. So.
Anything else? Mr. Butler, I understand you got a call from the LEC Authority Chairman today.
Yes, and what they're asking, and with Neighbor Group also, because the authority would like to bid out the jail on April 20th, as I understand. To do that, they'd like to request some kind of commitment from the board for the $7-10 million they're going to receive within 60 days, which would require following the guidelines to spend it. And also on availability of funds, they'd like to have a request of up to $8 million of that $10 million to fulfill the contract if it's bid out April 20th, received 6-7 weeks later. It's some kind of a commitment so they know they do have the money before they even let the contract out, until after they bid it out. It'd be like a letter of understanding, which is similar to what the city did for up to $375,000. Now, the county has already committed $2 million of cash reserves for part of the bidding. It was in the initial bid for the site improvement. So that actually reduces. So instead of $8 million, it may only be $6 million. But they'd like some kind of a letter of understanding that the board is willing to commit that kind of money if the bids come in that high. That's yet to be seen. But they'd like to bid out the whole project, I believe, April 20th. Is that what you understand, Ron?
Yeah, that's where we were as of last week, but I mean, it's pretty much understood that the costs have gone up for obviously the pandemic and whatnot, but yeah, I mean, we're just going to have some level of understanding that, assuming that we can use that money from that Recovery Act or whatever the ARPA thing is, I can't remember what it stands for, but as long as we've got some understanding that we will commit X amount of funds to the authority or to the building process and the bidding, that, I mean, as an authority member, I'm frustrated that we can't get this thing. Granted, we're going to start with the dirt work here very soon, or at least get the bids going for it. So we are showing process, but it is so frustrating to see that we're sitting here and holding our breath that the current LEC stays together until we get something done. So
That would be our number one thing, right? If you put all the needs we have,
I would
Number
say,
one.
yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything other than a couple of, I'll put it this way, public safety is first and foremost, and if we can use the money for that, then that's, as a board member and an authority member, I think it's, public safety is first and foremost, because if this current LEC fails, it's gonna be some kind of expensive to overcome that, the transport and all that, so I think the public safety should take precedence over anything else that's sitting out there and staring at us. And I, as I understand, your GFOA and our bonding attorney and so forth are pretty comfortable that we can use this money towards the LEC, correct,
Yes.
Dennis? Okay.
GFOA, which is Government Finance Officer Association, they did come out with recommended guiding principles, and the jail falls right into the category of infrastructure. It's a one-time expenditure, and it's related to COVID, and the authority can prove that the increases are due to COVID.
Okay.
From the initial, what it is today. And like I say, if they don't spend the $8 million, it doesn't go to them, it stays with the county. So that's kind of number one priority. The second one would possibly be reimburse on revenues that we have lost. And the third would be any other projects if there's money left over in this batch of money. Yeah, I realize a year from now, we're gonna get another 10 million. It's a lot of money. But
Okay.
the jails has to be priority because we need to get up and running so we can get revenue to help reduce the tax asking to the taxpayer by getting prisoners in there.
So we just need a resolution next week that says.
Just be a letter of understanding, and I can work with Joshua on that. We can look at what the letter came from the city, their attorney went through it, and then we can go with Joshua, take a look at it, and then it'd be between the authority and, because Joshua would be involved, because it involves the county, absolutely, and probably Jason. And Jason and Joshua got a good working relationship, so I think we can get that done.
well, it has to
Either
have,
next week or the week after, and it's all contingent, we get this money by a certain date.
it has to have some exit clauses because we don't have the money to start with, and we still have people with opinions on what it can be used for, so.
We need some, you would assume that the government have guidelines in writing by the time they get ready to send this out. But everything is under assumption we have the guidelines and the money. So we still go ahead and do it, but the authority has to realize, and our person managing understands that the money only comes if we get it and follows the guidelines. We don't want to get in a situation where we give them the money and all of a sudden we have to pay back. That would not be good.
That would be real tough.
Yes.
Any other board concerns?
Happy Easter.
We are adjourned.